Kevin, how's it going, my friend?
What's going on, Rem?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. I'm so excited for this conversation. We connected on X not too long ago, so it's so fun how it happened so quickly that we got a vibe and we just told each other, hey, let's get on a episode and let's do this. So thanks for joining me on Dads with Mikes, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
dude, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny how we met on. I forget how I came across you on there, but it was. I think it was like I follow a guy named the Wealth Coach.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think he recommended me to you, or I saw you comment on something, and I was like, all right. So I started following like a bunch of dad stuff, and I came across and saw we had the similarities with the podcast, and I was like, never done this before. And before I could even ask you, I think before I asked her, like you had said something about coming on, and I was like, perfect, let's do it.
Yeah, it was that quick, man.
It was. It was.
And you needed no convincing whatsoever, so that was awesome.
No, I
So
like doing
Kevin,
this
tell
stuff.
me a little bit about yourself, man.
So I'm 36. My wife is 33. Yeah, she's 33. I had to think about it for a second. Um, we met in 2021, got married really quick 6 months later in 2022, and we had our first and only kid. He was born June of 2023, so he's 14 and a half months now. Um, I'm an air traffic controller, so in case anybody doesn't know what that is, I'm not the guy doing this with the lights on the tarmac. I'm in the tower or downstairs in the radar, and I tell planes where to go and how to land and stuff like that. And I've been doing that for 16 years.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's a super fun job, but
I heard super stressful.
I tell people this, and however the listener wants to take this, I swear, I promise you, I'm not being arrogant or cocky or anything. It's only stressful if you don't know what you're doing. So,
Well, I hope they all know. I hope they all know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a very strict training program. We're
Okay.
very thorough. We spend hours and hours and hours, and sometimes it takes up to 2 years to get what we call fully certified across the board. So it just depends on where you go. Like your Charlotte's and Atlanta's are going to be busier, but I'm at Raleigh, North Carolina,
Okay.
and we're like upper middle busy, and we're constantly growing. So I can only imagine we're going to get busier and busier as the years come.
You have a crazy schedule too, don't you?
Yes, and they just released some fatigue mitigation on that. So my schedule right now, my weekend is Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's my typical Saturday, Sunday for most 9 to 5 workers. And Thursday, Friday, I'll go in at 1 or 2 and do my 8 hours. Saturday is a toss up between working morning, mid, or night. And then Sunday, Monday is early day shifts. I can go in around between 5:30 and 6. And we call it a rattler or a snake schedule. But we're
Okay.
working on developing it now to where we can have straight lines. And the FAA finally figured out that, hey, these guys might need some more sleep after whenever the FAA was founded. I don't even know that date, but yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
you guys need to
hopefully
stay
it works
sharp.
out. Yeah. Yeah. We're not
Oh.
constantly in there. I think we probably talk to planes for about 45 minutes and then we take like a 30-minute break. We just keep rotating that. So,
Kevin, you're the balanced dad on X.
yeah.
What does
Yeah,
that
that's
mean to
me.
you?
Well, I came up with the idea because myself, I had difficulty figuring out family, fitness, work, personal goals. And I didn't really see any group or person talking about it. And I was like, I can't be the only person with this problem. So that's where I developed that out of. And balance to me, I bounced back and forth between there is no such thing as balance. It's saying yes to one thing and no to another. And that's what you're constantly juggling. But when I think about it, that is balancing. So I was like, okay, I just didn't want to call it balance for whatever reason. And then I just gave into the word. And it's just, I don't know, man. I'm really passionate about it because I feel like people are so stressed out all the time, especially new dads. You know, my kid's 14 and a half months old. Sorry. And, you know, if I was able to figure it out within the first year, I want to be able to help dads figure it out even quicker
Okay.
because I know how stressful that early time can be. And on top of that, my wife was very bad postpartum. and she has severe ADHD and she has Tourette's. So that was a big challenge as well, trying to figure out how to help her out and what I could do for her, and then
Right.
also dealing with a newborn son. So that's kind of like, I guess, the nitty gritty of why I started the Balanced Dad.
Yeah, okay, then, man, that sounds like a lot, and I can understand where the balance that comes from now.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot to deal with, and I can't imagine what it's like. But what what made you, or what helped you stay balanced as you are? And obviously, it's not always perfect, right? I mean, and nobody's perfect.
Oh no. I
So
mean, I hope I don't portray a perfect image on X or my socials that I post on. Um, I kind of I think the main thing that helped keep me balanced was planning, and it goes hand in hand with communication, because as much as I love to talk, I don't know how to communicate sometimes.
okay,
And learning how to talk, especially with someone like my wife who has ADHD, it was like a whole new puzzle, man. It was like I was entering all, and I knew her. I'll put this in air quotes, and anybody watching can see it. Her conditions, her mental health stuff that she has. Um, it was brand new to me, and I knew going into it, the relationship what she had, but I never actually gave any thought to it, especially with when we got, she got pregnant and we were expecting. It was like I had no idea, and I had to battle a whole new beast. And I don't say that to be negative. I say it because I had never encountered it before, and it's like, you can tell your wife one thing, and then it's like she's going to do something differently because her ADHD makes her do stuff that way. So I found out that I have to be very specific with how I communicate and articulate myself with my wife. And that kind of spilled over into helping me talk to other people as well. Um, and then with the planning stuff is we have calendars downstairs. Calendars were the easiest thing. I write every single thing I'm doing, from work shifts to this podcast appointment, I would call it. Um, and I started developing that, and then I started treating everything like an appointment. And once I had everything organized, I was like, why wasn't I doing this before?
yeah,
It was all in my head. And, we have a saying in air traffic, it's don't keep secrets, because you have to tell the controller next to you what somebody's doing that might be coming to them, and they have to talk to them. So I was like, all right, well, why am I keeping secrets from my wife? It was always just like assuming and expecting. And I got rid of all that, man. I've known my wife for
mm,
3 years now, and I don't expect things out of her, even though I know what I can expect. I go into it not expecting, and I still go to her and say, "Hey, like, hey, I got a podcast with this guy I met on X. Is it cool if I do that on Wednesday? I'll write it on the calendar." She's like, "Yeah, fine, just put it up there. We ain't got anything going on." And we coordinate back and forth. We both do it. And I'm telling you what, man, I never have to worry what's going to happen, the next 7 days. And, I do it with my fitness as well. I try to allocate 3 to 4 days for 45 minutes to an hour. And I say, "Hey, sweetheart, I get off at this time. I would like to lift at this time. Can we accommodate?" And she goes, nah. She goes, I don't know if we can do it at that time because I was going to do this. She's got her stuff to take care of too,
yeah,
And sometimes we forget. Like you said, we're not perfect. So it's like, okay, when can I? She's like, "Well, can you do it later on, this day or later in the evening?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." Or if like she needs a break from watching our kid, because we all need breaks sometimes, especially with the toddlers running around, man, like it's insane. Like I have a little bike, a recumbent bike that I have in the living room, and I'll
okay,
sit there and he plays on my toys, and I just sit there. That's how I knock stuff out. Like learning how to multitask too. Like
yeah.
I don't know how to compile it into like one idea because it's a bunch of stuff at the same time. But the communication and planning is just huge.
Crucial. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And we have a shared schedule, my wife and I, on Google. It's a shared Google Calendar, basically. We both have
Oh
access
yeah,
to
yeah.
it. We put everything in there. And it makes everything so much easier, simpler. It takes
Hmm.
the guesswork out of it. And when you have to guess and try to think, oh, wait a minute, my wife said she had something on Tuesday. What was it again? And then
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking to yourself, and then you start thinking, oh, should I ask her? Oh, but if I ask her, she'll think I wasn't paying attention. So if you write everything down,
Mm-hmm.
it makes everything so much easier to plan and schedule, and the stress that comes with not knowing,
Mm-hmm.
you get rid of that just by being organized.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too that I wanted to say in case anybody is dealing with this is, my wife does the stay-at-home mom thing right now with
Okay.
it because with her postpartum stuff, when I said it got really bad. So like we found a nanny for him that does like Montessori stuff, and he goes there, a few days. That way, it's like she can still decompress, and she's got her stuff she does on the side to make money as well. So it's like, okay, I like that. In the beginning, I was like the breadwinner, I guess you could say. I brought the salary home. She did like the stay at home thing, and because we found a nanny because her postpartum was so bad. And then once she started getting better, she started, looking for jobs and like side hobbies and stuff like that. She makes money off of Facebook Marketplace. Like it's insane how much money like she does off of side hustling there.
Nice.
But I still felt like I had to control everything. I still thought I had to do the budgeting. I still thought I had to do the grocery shopping and stuff like that. And I would go to her and be like, I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I do everything around here.
Okay.
And I talked to my friend, I called him, and I'm telling you, the best advice I get for being a dad and a husband is from people who have done it longer than me.
Yeah.
So I called my best friend of 21 years now, and I said, hey, he doesn't mind if I say his name. I was like, Mark, what do I do here? And he was like, stop doing everything. I was like, all right. So I sat down with her and I said, hey, do you want to take over the finances? We were never married financially. And then we finally had made like, that was the one thing I subconsciously refused to do. And we finally got the joint bank account, which it's not for everybody, but it works for us. And I said, here, you take over the finances. You could take over creating the grocery lists. And that took a stress off my shoulders. And that right there, I think was the very, very beginning of figuring out what balanced meant.
Okay.
I talked all about the communication and stuff like that, but I think that was like the very first big action that we took, or at least it was big for me. And she just kind of threw her hands up in the air. I was like, I've been waiting for you to ask me to take this over. And I was like, why
Really?
didn't you just tell me you wanted this, And that was the communication, it's a little funny joke, but that's the communication thing we had there. And that freed me up to do stuff that I wanted to do, like, the balanced dad, or like I said, more time for fitness, because I didn't have to sit up here and, figure out like, all right, let me update the budget sheet. Yeah, it only takes like 15, 20 minutes, but still it's time taken out of my day.
For sure. How much
But
of a difference do you think it makes that your wife is a stay-at-home mom?
um see, the thing is I've never experienced, I guess you could say, in the beginning. So the little time she was like a true stay-at-home mom before like she started like going out and making money again, and all that, and hacking Facebook Marketplace or whatever you want to call it. uh I I personally like the stay-at-home mom stuff. I like the fact that my kid's with the mother and he's not in a daycare, because we visited a bunch of daycares and we are just kind of like, it's not for us.
Mm.
And I'm not knocking on anybody that has to make that decision. I'm speaking from my personal experience. And I grew up with, my mom was a single mom for a while and she was constantly working. And we used to go to my grandmother's house after school till she got done. So I don't want to say I'm trying to break a cycle or anything, but that's where like my viewpoints came with how important it was, because my mother's very loving. She's an amazing person. And if I was able to afford, and I guess you could say allow, like my salary allows my wife to stay at home and we live comfortably, I wanted her to be around my son and my son to be around her as much as possible, because that's just a bond biologically that you can never recreate.
Right.
And I don't think it can't be created. It can't be simulated. Like that's just my opinion and experience with it. And it's crazy is I 100% believe that because she was able to spend that time with him for that period of time at home, those two, like watching him crawl up on her and laying with her and taking naps with her, he doesn't do it with me. You know, he wants to, you know, poke my belly and like run around and throw toys with me. Mom, now we'll take a nap together. We'll snuggle. And I think that contributed to it. But now that she's going back to work and he's with the nanny, I could see it kind of affecting her a little bit. You know, I could see how much she misses him. I was used to it because after, like my job, I was allowed to get paternity leave, like federal. I'm technically a federal worker,
Right.
and we had our, you know, we have 12 weeks of paternity leave.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
Most people have nothing, right, in the States?
yes, yeah. It's something that I hope both sides, male and female, dad and mother, can eventually both get. That was super important. And you know, after those 12 weeks, since he was 12 weeks old, I've been working full time and overtime. So, yeah, the stay at home mom thing, I wish every woman could do it. It's just just seems like such an amazing thing.
It is. And you know what? You hear a lot of horror stories about daycares.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the requirements are to be a daycare. What is it? It's not even a teacher. They're not teachers. They're caregivers, I guess you could call them.
Babysitters, in my opinion.
Right, because they don't do much at daycare, right? We're lucky here in Montreal, where I am. We found, I don't know if it's everywhere like this, but the daycare that we had for our kids was just phenomenal. We met the staff beforehand. They showed us around. They showed us the curriculum. It's more of a pre-K than a daycare, if you ask me.
That's awesome.
There was actual teaching curriculum as soon as you bring your child to this place. But I hear a lot of different stories about the ones in the U.S., and maybe you can fill me in on that. How is daycare seen to Americans? Is it a positive thing? Is it a necessary evil? What's it like?
I think you can formulate an opinion on all sides of those, man. Like, you know, you see people who are very strong-willed and very traditional that are like, you know, men work, women stay home and take care of the kids and stuff like that. And then you have other people where, you know, women, you know, have the right to work. So, you know, if they want to go back out in the workforce, I kind of just throw it up and said, you know, and my wife's name's Erica. I said, Erica, you can do whatever you want. If you want to stay home, you can. If you want to go back out and work, you can. Like, that's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do.
Right.
Just talk to me about it and we'll work it out, you know? But I could see on some hands, like daycares are just kind of like, I've seen the negative side of it where people just dump their kid off and they just go, here, you watch the kid for 8 hours. Like, and I'll just go do whatever, you know? And I think a lot of people see it like that. I mean, maybe I avoid the negative stories because I don't want to see them. And plus, we don't put our kid in a public daycare. Like the woman Axel goes to, it's my son's name, Axel.
Okay.
She only has him and another little girl, and they're only 3 months apart.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was a Montessori teacher for years, and then she worked in the public school system and despised it and was like, you know, I'm a Montessori person at heart. And the Montessori schools have the same, we visited a few too, but it was so darn expensive that, you know, by, you know, a miracle, we found this woman who lives 20 minutes down the road, and she's like, hey, I do all this, this, and this. And she interviewed like 20 families or something. And like, we got picked, and we were like, holy cow, this is meant to be. And, yeah, the Montessori thing was cool, man. Like, I hope when he gets older, he can go, we can work out to get him in one of those schools or like a charter or technical school. And, they had a curriculum for like kids his age. Like, hey, this is what we do to work with them.
Okay.
Like, to develop, you know, their skills, like their milestones. Cause, I think your kids are like twice my age. You have what, like a 3 and a 5-year-old or something?
So my boy is 6 and my daughter is 4.
Okay. I was close.
Not bad.
Um, and so you know, like the early milestones of like crawling, sitting up, like eating your first solid, like they had that written out. And it was the cool thing is you could opt in for them to be bilingual as they went through the school program.
Wow.
So the one we went to didn't offer Mandarin, but they offered Spanish, and some of
Okay.
them would offer Mandarin and Spanish. And I just saw it and I was blown away. And the fact that we got a woman that taught in that umbrella, that network, I don't think our son would be where he is developmentally at 14 months if this woman didn't teach him. And like she taught him how to sit in a chair and he gets up in his chair and like is like, all right, I'm gonna eat. It's like, yeah, we could have taught him that, but I never would have thought of it. Like, you're only a year old. Like, you want to
Yeah.
sit in your chair and watch TV, and eat your snacks with dad? Like, all right, man, let's do it. Like it's just it's crazy that those things exist. It just stinks because they cost so much money.
That's true.
But I know I rambled on back there a little bit right there, so I'm sorry. Let me go back to the daycare thing. I think normal daycare can be seen as negative, but I also see it as a positive. Say you're a single mother and you can't watch your kid and you got to
Don't have a
work.
choice. What do you do?
You don't have
Right?
a choice. Sometimes you don't have a choice. But I think people have their own circumstances. Everything's subjective to the individual.
Yeah, I was on the fence about daycare, especially recently, just because, and it didn't help that I just caught a podcast. It's Tammy Peterson's podcast. It's Jordan Peterson's wife.
Hmm.
I didn't know this until like 2 days ago. She has her own podcast, and
I
she
didn't know
had
that either.
this author on last week, I think, who wrote a book about early childhood
Hmm.
and how the first couple of years are crucial in a child's development, both physically, obviously, and mentally speaking. And basically, she was full on against daycares, at least at an early age. And she was saying how in the U.S. especially, people are sending their kids to daycare sometimes even like a couple of weeks in because they don't have the maternity leave or paternity leave or any kind of leave
Hmm.
after giving birth, which to me is insane. I have to say here in Canada, we're on that front, we're lucky because we have paternity leave for men and maternity leave for women is anywhere between 12 and 18 months.
That's really, really cool.
And you can choose to take the 18 months and you can also decide, no, I'll just take the 12. My wife, we both, I mean, it was her decision, but I supported her 100%. She took the full 18 when she had the choice. And why not? Why wouldn't you, right? And my wife's a lawyer, so it was
Oh,
a kind
wow.
of a big deal for her to take that
Yeah.
much time off, especially in her field. But the benefits, look, it's nothing compared to. I mean, it made things so much better than imagine her going back after 6 months. She wouldn't have had that connection with our kids for
Hmm.
all this time. And so this author that was on Tammy Peterson's podcast, she was advocating for maternity leave and longer maternity leaves because I don't know exactly how it works in the U.S., but apparently it's zero. She's outright said it's zero time. So I don't know if it depends on your employer or if it's a government thing, but the fact that women get zero maternity leave, I don't understand how you can hand off your infant
Hmm.
at such an early age.
Yeah, I asked my wife about that too. Because, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I did 10 years in the military, so I get the veterans benefits with like the GI Bill and going to school and stuff.
Okay.
And with being married, I can pass it on to her. So even
Nice.
before we had Axel, like I said, hey, if you want to go back to school, like you can, you don't have to cut hair anymore because she was a barber for 10 years. And I had asked her like, hey, if you would have stayed cutting hair, how much time would you have gotten off for maternity leave? And she was like, 0. And I was like, what? she's like, I would have gotten my job back, but it would have been 0 paid time off. And I was like, that's crazy. And the chain she worked for, they have separate, like you have your person up very up top, and then it trickles down to like chain owners. And the
Okay.
chain owners, franchise owners determine what their employees get for sick time, regular vacation time, all that stuff. And I was like, you didn't get any? She's like, no, I would have had to take my own vacation time if I wanted any of it paid.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Screw that. Like, you're done cutting hair. Like, I think that's the only time I've ever been like real militant to my wife. I was like, you're done. You're not working anymore. Like, go back to school. Like, you could stay here. Like, but if you choose to go back, like, okay. But, yeah, I'm like, my sister just had her second 7 months ago. No,
Okay.
8 months ago. And I mean, she only had like, I think like 4 or 5 weeks off. And I think it was paid, but still, it's only 4 or 5 weeks off. Like,
It's not much.
no. Luckily, she gets to work from home a lot with her job. So she's there with my niece, as long as she needs to be. And she's pretty far up the chain anyway.
How does that work, though? How do you work with an infant next to you?
I don't know. I guess she's just on the laptop while she's crawling around, and she has barricaded off or something. I have no idea. I've never actually really asked her how she did it, because I didn't have to worry about like doing that here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish there was something just a little bit different, and it's pretty much just left up to the employer, the business, the corporation, whoever develops the standard operating procedure for it. I would think.
Yeah.
When I was in the military, right before I got out, they were offering that 12-month thing. They were saying, hey, you can, and I knew of one version of it. And I was in the Air Force. I knew in the Air Force they were offering people before I got out, you can take a year off, and you can go do that maternity leave for a year.
Okay.
But then like you have to tack that on to your enlistment. So say you enlisted for 4 years and you took off year 2 to 3, you would attack that year that you didn't serve actively on
Right.
the end. So you technically were in the military for 5 years, but
Got
that was
it.
still a year off. And then I think the other option, they were downsizing at the time, and they were letting people just get out. Like, hey, if you just want to get out, go ahead. Or you can tack that year on and come back and finish out your enlistment. So I was like, at least somebody is doing something.
Yeah.
At least, somebody is doing something. And that's one of the reasons why I recommend anybody here, like, try to get a federal job, because if you're a federal employee, you're going to get that 12 weeks of maternity or paternity leave. Like, it's equal on both sides. And it's paid. You're paid at like a flat rate, whatever you're supposed to make
Right.
at the place that you work at. And dude, I was so blessed for that, man. I know some people aren't fortunate, and I even hate talking about it, because not everybody is awarded the same opportunity that I was for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, I mean, look, you're blessed, like you said, that you were able to, you were given that opportunity, and you made the most of it. So, why not? And it makes me think, though, like, do you think on the men's side, on the father's side, do you think men would want that time?
I think deep down we all do. I know for me personally, just the history of, my mom being a single mom, and, my father not being in there for the longest time. And then my mom remarried in 97, and that's who I called dad.
Okay.
Like, I saw what it was like not having a dad at home. And that really influences me as a father and a dad as well, because a father is, the sperm donor in the creation,
Yeah.
and the dad is the responsibility. That's how I've always viewed it, and I stand by that 100%. And I knew that I wanted to be both, and I knew that when that 12-week period came up and I could take it, I was like, I'm 100% being there, because I'm never going to get that time back. And I wanted to be able to be there in that early stages of those 3 months of development, because anybody who's listening that has kids, and Rem, you know this too. Think about back in the first like 6 months of when your kids were born. I barely remember it unless I see pictures or videos because of how hazy you are with the sleep and stuff like that. And I was stressed, because I'm like, somebody's allowing me to take care of a kid. They think I'm responsible enough, but it was amazing because my wife didn't have to bear that 100%. We got to share that. And especially since her postpartum was so terribly bad, I was able to kind of take the load off of her by being there for those 12 weeks. And she's told me numerous times, if you didn't have those 12 weeks, I don't know what I would have done. And that's not saying she would have hurt herself or hurt the baby, because she never was like that. She was just severely, severely depressed.
It can get to that point, though. It can get, I've heard some stories. It can get to that point. Postpartum depression is not something to be taken lightly.
No, and I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was not a myth, but I was like, that's not going to happen to my wife, And
you hear it sometimes because they call it baby blues sometimes.
Yes,
which is entirely a different thing.
Yeah, baby blues is just kind of I chucked that up to I'm just kind of exhausted.
Exactly.
And then, but, when she said, hey, I need help. Yeah, I was like, okay, like, let's go get you help.
To step in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm very, very protective. I'll preach it over and over again. Like as a man, I am always going to be the protector and the provider to the maximum extent that I am physically and mentally and physiologically capable of doing. But on the other side of that, I love the fact that I could sit there and feed my kid, Yeah. My wife, unfortunately, she breastfed for about a week and she was getting super sick doing it. And she was off medication that she needed to be on from the pregnancy. So being able to sit there and get up with him in the middle of the night and just, shake a bottle real quick of formula and sit there and feed him, change his diaper, like those were intimate moments that I'm fortunate and so, I thank God every day that I was able to have those moments because I can say I was there.
Yeah.
Because I remember my first memory as a child. I remember vivid images in my head around 3, 4, 5 years old, because I think everything I've researched and looked at, that's when we start forming our memories. Solid memories around 5 years old. Up until then, the only memories we have are the ones we create with our kids because they can't create them ourselves. And I know that every single waking moment that I can do something awesome with my son, like I'm going to do it. And that's another reason why Balanced Dad came about too, is because I wanted to be able to do my personal goals, my fitness, everything that Kevin still needs to do in his life, but also go downstairs and be like, all right, I guess I'll watch Miss Rachel for an hour while we build blocks, or watch this dancing vegetables thing that he likes it's called Hey Bear Century or something.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I'm not even going to get into that. Whoever's listening, they probably know what it is.
I've heard Miss Rachel, but I've also heard bad things about her. So maybe we won't get into that though.
No, I don't know. It makes him happy and whatever. If he's crying, we put it on, but we don't let the TV babysit our kid. Well, I'll at least reassure people out
that's
there.
Good. That's good.
But even on those 12 weeks of paternity leave, I was taking him to Home Depot and Lowe's because I love gardening. So I'd be like, you know what? Let's leave mom at the house. So like when he would wake up at 7, in the morning or something after his however long he slept, it's like, all right, let's go to the store. And I'd pack him in. I wore that thing on the front of me, that little front backpack thing. And I'm walking around the store with a baby sleeping on my chest. And, guys are like, look at me like, yeah, right there. Like that's it,
Nice.
I'm buying, and we still do that to this day. Like our thing from when he was born and I could take him out till now when he's 14 months is he knows we're going to the hardware store if I put him in the car.
That's awesome, man. But not a lot of guys think like that. You noticed that?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, maybe some people just you know, if they're doing the stay-at-home mom thing and the dad's the breadwinner, maybe they just have that instilled in their head that like you take care of the kid. Because
Right.
I didn't think that was a thing, Rem. I didn't think that was a thing at all until my wife was like, she would tell me, she's in all these mom groups on Facebook, and she's like, you have no idea like what you contribute to this family. And as a dad, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, this should be normal. And she goes, no, there's men and dads who won't even touch a diaper.
Yeah.
And that to me is just blasphemy. It bothers me so much that you wanted, whether your child was quote an accident or they were planned, you still are 50% of that. So you need to step your game up, get up off the couch, get off your phone, get off your PlayStation, and contribute. And if you want to call it 50-50 responsibility, call it that. But just,
I mean, you don't even have to break it down that way. It doesn't have to be a numbers game, you know, just be a dad, just be there.
Yeah.
And why'd you have the kid to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to hand off all responsibilities to your wife?
Yeah. I've never been like that. I never will be like that. But
there's a lot of I mean, I see it all the time on Reddit groups, on Facebook or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women complaining about their men,
mm-hmm.
saying how, oh, my husband's a gamer and he's always playing video games and he's never home and he goes to the gym. He finishes work and he goes to the gym right away. And he doesn't want to spend time with his kids. He's avoiding them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
I honestly think it goes back to what I said in the beginning. It was communication. I think a lot of it stems from communication, because as I've grown in life, and I'm not saying I'm the most mature person at 36 at all, but what I can say is as I've gotten older and I've learned how to talk to my wife and learn how to communicate, I've learned that I always play a part in something. And if I feel that I've been hurt by something, there's always something I could have done better. So I look at that in every situation. When I see somebody complaining that like, oh, their partner's not doing this, it's like, okay, well, what are you doing? Are you communicating this effectively? Have you been tactful, or are you just pointing your finger and blaming? I was that person. So I know firsthand how that feels, what it's like to be on the giving and receiving end. And I stopped, because I used to be like, hey, I'm going and doing this. Or, hey, I'm doing this. Hey, can you come down and help? And I'd be like, hey, let me finish this up. I got an hour. And I used to be the video game kid. But now I'm just like, you know what? If my wife's calling and asking for help, like, she probably needs my help. This video game can wait. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Or that thing I'm doing, even if I'm in the middle of a workout and she leans her head in the garage door and goes, hey, babe, I need help. It's like, okay, cool. I'll go help her. And then I go back to doing what I need to do. But the thing is we communicate openly and we don't get defensive like we used to. We're not perfect by any means whatsoever. It still happens.
Yeah.
But the fact that her and I took time out, and it started with marriage counseling, and I'll just leave it at that. We had trouble talking, so we did go to marriage counseling before. Actually, no. It was after we had the kid. Hormones and emotions were running high because just biological reasons after having a kid, and we needed to learn how to talk to each other. And this guy helped us out. And one of the things is you have to learn to see, one, this is what I got out of it, is not everybody is out to get you. Two, you play a part in everything that you have, and speak how you really feel. And once my wife and I practice those things, we're always there whenever one of us needs each other. And we're more willing to give. Like sometimes my wife is just like, I'll be like, hey, I got to go do this. When do you need me? She's like, 5 hours from now.
Yeah.
Cool. And then other days I'll give my wife the debit or credit card and go have fun. Go to your stores for the day, and I'll stay here with him and I'll watch him.
Yeah. And, I'm not saying that like once you become a father, you have to give up everything.
I think a lot of people believe that,
30
though.
minutes a weekend,
Mm-hmm.
do it. And if you still want to work out, I still work out. I have 2 kids and 2 young kids that always want to be with me. They're 6 and 4 years old. Every waking moment that they have, they want to play. They're at that age, and they're still at the age where they want to play with daddy. So as soon as I'm done work, they come looking for me. They want to play with me. They ask all the time. So you can absolutely bet that I will be and there for them and give them that time that they want, because you keep hearing about it. Oh, wait until they're 10 or 12 or whatever number it is.
Yeah.
They're not going to ask anymore. And what can possibly be more important than giving your kids time when they're asking for it, especially at a young age? That doesn't mean that I don't have my hobbies on the side. Look, I have a 9 to 5 job. I still work out 3 times a week. I still go for walks. I still date my wife. I volunteer. I have a podcast, for God's sakes. So I do have hobbies and activities outside of being a dad. Do I schedule a lot of them around my kids' schedule? Yeah, but that's fine. I still have time to do everything else I just mentioned. So you just got to plan it and communicate, like you said, with your wife. Organize the week in a way that there's time with the kids, there's time with your wife, and there's time for yourself. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, and I want to also point out too, when you spend that time with your kids, and I harp on this a lot too, is being engaged. I'm very bad at it, but I'm getting better, and I have to say that and admit that to the people listening, because I preach being engaged, and I catch myself doing it sometimes. Is time with your kids is the old quality over quantity, in my experience, because I can spend countless hours with my son downstairs, but if I'm on my phone,
that doesn't count.
That doesn't count. I'm doom scrolling.
Yeah.
I'm just doom scrolling. And it's stuff that I don't want to see anyway. It's like, oh, the world's burning. It's like, oh, cool. Let me see that more, and and then you notice the difference is I'll put my phone on even like a grayscale, ugly color.
Yeah.
And I'll put it on do not disturb. Sometimes I'll leave it up here in the office. I'll put it in the bedroom and I'll go down there, so I can't hear it buzz like through the walls or think I hear it ringing or anything. Like, I want to get down and dirty and play, I want him to touch me. I want to touch him. Like, I want us to look each other in the eye, and I want him to, blow bubbles in my face, like everything, like I want that intimacy and I want that engagement. I want that quality time, because I don't want to go back and look back when that age comes where he goes, see ya, Dad, I'm going out with friends, and I don't see him for a weekend. And it's like, well, crap. Why you don't want to spend time with me? Like, I thought I was cool, and then you, whatever, negative mindset you spiral into, you're bound to think about those times that you were just sitting there going, man, I wish I would have done things differently.
The way we treat our kids now is the way they're going to treat us when they're older.
Yeah.
If you're on your phone all the time, you can't expect them to grow up and, when they're teenagers and they're on their phone, and then you're trying to have a conversation with them, or you ask them a question, they're not looking at you. And you're like, hey, I'm talking to you. Can you put your phone away?
Yeah. And
if you do that to them when he was a kid, he might not remember, but he's internalizing that. And so it stayed with him all these years. And, not everybody might agree with this, but it stays with you. And those habits compound over time, and then that's how they grow into it. And then they do the same thing to you.
Yeah. Like, my goal, and like I said, I'm very new to the dad experience. Like I said, 14 and a half months, how old my boy is. But the experiences I've had with my father and dad have given me a lot of insight on how I want to raise my boy and how I want to act like a dad. And also how I figured out how to get things done early on, because I had to, so I have so much, I believe I have so much knowledge in being able to solve that problem, that I want my son to be able to see that as well. So I'm not only doing this for myself and for other dads that have this problem, I'm doing it for my son and my wife as well, because that trickles into how much time I'm with them, and the quality time. And I want him to remember that dad was there. I want him to know that dad at least tried to be there if, I had to work. And I want him to be able to emulate the kind of man that I want to see grow up. And the only way we do that is by example. And if you think that they're, like you said, if you think they're not paying attention at such a young age that they are now, you're poorly mistaken.
Yeah.
Because even now, he sees how I act around my wife. He sees that I love my wife. I hug her. I kiss her in front of him. And he comes up and runs and, lays his head on us. And it's just like, he knows. He sees that. He's 14 months old and he sees that. So I 100% agree with you on that, man. Like, it's act like how you want your kids to act, I guess you could say. Be the role model you were meant to be. Model
the behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way you treat your wife is the way your son might treat his wife when he grows up.
Mm-hmm. That's why I always try to. The thing we're working on now is not cussing.
Okay.
My wife and I are very sarcastic people, so we dig into each other hard. And we're joking. We both know we're joking. We're best friends, other than being husband and wife.
Right.
And it's like, we caught ourselves the other day saying something. We're like, and he looked at us and we're like, did he just say SHIT? And we're like, oh no. And that's when we're like, we'll catch ourselves, saying it and cut ourselves off. And it's just like, model behavior. Yeah. How do you explain that? Like, hey, you can't say that. Why not? Because you said it. We're not supposed to. Yeah. That's another thing too, that like, I can't, I know we're getting close to an hour. The one thing that, like, if I could touch on real quick, what I look forward to is I look forward to that. And you can laugh if you want. I look forward to him talking with me because I know that they don't shut up apparently. they never be quiet. They never stay quiet. I'm looking for those conversations, man. I'm looking for him to go, hey, Daddy, can you tell me what this means and stuff like that.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome.
And I want to be, like I said, going back, I'll say it again. I want to be the father and the dad that I didn't have the opportunity to have because I either had one or the other. And my dad is one of the greatest human beings on earth. Like, if I could be half the dad he was to me, then I know I've succeeded at being a dad. And I hope he hears this. I've said it to him numerous times, but I hope he hears it anyway.
Well, you'll have to show him the episode.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to that. And just as I continue to grow as a dad, like I said, looking to people like you who have experience with, toddlers and, kids that are reaching their preteen stage in the next handful of years. Sorry if I made you feel old right there. And then, people who have even teenagers now that I work with, like I hear their horror stories, but I also hear the good things too. It's just what you choose to focus on and how you choose to build yourself and how you choose to personally grow in the mindset you carry, to me, is what has molded and shaped me as the dad I am now and the dad I want to continue to be and grow into as I get older and he gets older.
That's wonderful, man. I got 2 quick questions for you.
Sure.
1, what's your favorite part about being a dad?
Ooh, my favorite part about being a dad?
Don't think too much.
Favorite part about being a dad is the fact that I get to raise him how a man should act in society properly.
Nice. Okay, what's your least favorite part, the thing you hate the most about being a dad?
Right now it's whining. I cannot stand whining. But if I'm being on a serious note, it's the fact that they grow up too fast.
Okay.
Yeah, they definitely grow up too fast, and I wish I could remember every single detail, and I know that's not possible, but that's where the quality and over quantity thing comes in, being present.
Very cool. Kevin, thanks so much for joining me on Dads with Mics.
I appreciate it.
Let us know, where can people find you on social media? And also tell us a little bit about your podcast. We want to hear about that. So
you could find me, my handle is @THE_. _balanced with a D on the end, dad. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And the podcast, I only have a few, maybe 8 to 10 episodes of the Balanced Dad. I had an old podcast called New Dad City, and I had an old podcast named New Dad City, and I rebranded recently once I figured out that idea of, hey, let's do the balance thing and be able to teach that message. Because, man, I've gone back and listened to the old episodes, and I didn't get rid of them because it's part of the growing stage, and I want people to hear the evolution of me as a dad and stuff like that. But good Lord, is that old content terrible compared to what I'm trying to put out now. But I love it. Some of the older episodes are still a hit. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, pretty much. And the link's everywhere. If you go to the Twitter and Instagram, it's in there. You can click on it and choose your platform.
I'll link all of those in the show notes as well.
Cool.
Thanks
But
again, man.
I appreciate it, dude. Thank you.